Hey everyone, Doug here. Having some technical difficulties on the stream. Looks like this time it's on YouTube's end. Typically the problems I have are more with my Teradek video encoders, but today the Teradek's actually working perfectly, and for some reason YouTube is throwing a fit. I'm sending data, but it's saying I'm not sending enough, even though I can tell that I am. Anyway, so I wanted to do a quick video, sort of following up on the update from Blackmagic they just posted on their YouTube channel, and announced a few products, announced a few updates to a few products, and I wanted to discuss some of those. So if you guys have questions along the way here, feel free to leave those in the chat. But please do keep those questions relevant to just the products that were being discussed here today. I'll do another stream another day for general purpose question and answer about other topics. So the first thing that Blackmagic announced today was an update to the Davinci Resolve software. It's been version 16 has been in beta for a little while now, and they announced that back at NAB in April, and they've got a version 16.1 that's going to be a new beta moving forward. 16.0 still is not actually out in its final form, but they're going to be moving forward with a 16.1 with new features. Most of those features tend to be centered around the editing workflow, in particular for syncing and multi-camera, and a lot of the updates are really focused around their new keyboard that they announced back at NAB as well. Keyboard designed specifically for video editors and video colorists. So the demonstration it showed some pretty cool things, making it really easy to drop new clips down onto the timeline using keyboard shortcuts and the knob on the keyboard. So some pretty cool things there. So that 16.1 beta is available now, or at least sometime today. I hadn't actually tried to download it yet, but it's sometime today that will be available. And yeah, some exciting things there, especially for video editors. So they didn't make any mention of any changes in the coloring side of things. They seem to be focusing more on the editing. And announced a few small changes with regard to audio, supporting some higher bit rates and different additional bit depths and some things like that. So Davinci Resolve Studio and Free both are going to be updated here in a short period of time with some cool new features. So the next product that they announced, bring it up here on screen. Where is it? Okay, there we go. So this is they're replacing their old original UltraStudio 4K, and in fact, I'll show you guys. I had mine out here. So the UltraStudio 4K, this product is now being replaced. So they now have a new version, which the old version was 6 gig SDI. This new one is 12 gig SDI, and it uses Thunderbolt 3 instead of Thunderbolt 2. So it's been pretty rare that computers for a while have had Thunderbolt 2, and converting Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2 it's not just a simple cable, so it requires an adapter device. So it's been a little bit inconvenient to use that Thunderbolt 2 based device. So they've updated that with a new version. So this new unit is a 2/3 rack space unit, so you can fit that in a 1/3 space unit in the same rack on the same rack shelf. It's got a bunch of cool inputs and outputs. I'll get to that here in a minute. But basically, they're extending its capabilities. So it's going from 6 gig SDI up to 12 gig SDI. It is going to support separate fill and key on the output, although those will be limited to 6 gig SDI, much the same way that the old one was limited to 3 gig for that feature. It's got more inputs and outputs, HDMI in, HDMI out, and some analog connections, balanced audio connections on TRS connections there. So an SDI loop through. So a lot of the same connectivity as the older unit, although it is reduced a little bit because it is a smaller physical size and therefore can't have as many connections on it. But it looks like a pretty cool device, and I will probably be picking one up for when I need to do capture on a laptop in the field moving forward. For the trailer, I'm going to keep using my existing UltraStudio 4K that I've had for a while. So yeah, it looks like a cool thing. This will be really nifty for people on the go. It also makes a really nice interface for Davinci Resolve and Adobe Premiere as well, and any other editing software that supports the technologies that those use. So you can use that to make sure that you've got a nice high quality output while you're doing your video editing. So go over here to the tech specs and look at some of those. Go to the 4K Mini. So this is the new one. Before anybody assumes that SD card slot is for recording, it is basically just an SD card for reading cards. It's a card slot for reading cards on your computer. So nothing too sophisticated there. But that does come through the Thunderbolt interface. So you plug in one cable from this device into your computer, and you get all sorts of I/O, as well as that card reader there. It does also have a USB output. Let me scroll down there. So USB 3.1 output, so you can use that to daisy chain to other USB peripherals. So that way it sort of acts like a little bit of a docking station or a hub. That Thunderbolt connection. The Thunderbolt connection also does output up to 45 watts of power to power connect to the laptop. So let's see. You can see here it supports all the same codecs that it supported in the past. Most of that processing is actually done in software on the computer. So, but it does support all the major pieces of software that are out there. So you'll be able to import and export video. You can do real-time playback. In fact, a lot of times in my trailer when I need to do video playback, I play directly out of Premiere through my UltraStudio, so I don't necessarily have to render things ahead of time. I can just play things live. So that is the new UltraStudio 4K Mini. Also available now, and the price on that stays the same as the old version at $995. All right, so next thing that they announced, the Pocket Cinema 6K, Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. So they've had a 4K version of this camera for a while now. It's been at least a year. It's been out for a little while. And that used micro four thirds mount, and it had a micro four thirds size sensor in it. And it's been pretty well received. Most people that have used it tend to really like the images that come out of it. There's been a few challenges. Battery life has not been great, and Micro Four Thirds does not offer a very good selection of lenses for much of anything, to be honest. The Micro Four Thirds lens selection is not great, and so Blackmagic aimed to change that with this new version. This is a 6K camera that uses the Canon EF mount, so you can use higher quality lenses. You also get a slightly larger sensor. The sensor size is very, very close to APS-C. You typically find in a lot of lower-end DSLR cameras. But it does give you a resolution that's over 6K, so 6144 by 3456. So that's about 20 megapixels in that ballpark. It uses Blackmagic RAW as its primary codec. Can record in some other formats as well. I can record on CFast cards, SD cards. I can also use external USB-C recording media, although you do have to be a little bit choosy about that. You have to make sure that it can do high enough bit rates in order to record data, so your typical off-the-shelf hard drive probably isn't going to work there, but you can certainly use external SSDs. So, yeah, a few people in the comments mentioning, the battery life on the old camera was pretty abysmal, and that's one of the reasons that Blackmagic at NAB this year introduced a battery grip, a vertical battery grip, to go on the bottom to extend your battery life. Other than the higher resolution and a larger sensor, and of course the EF lens compatibility, it really is very, very similar to the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K that has been out for a little while. So this is actually a pretty cool product in my mind, because I was planning on picking up the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and then getting a MetaBones adapter in order to use EF lenses on it, and this actually eliminates the need to do that. I've been pretty disappointed with MetaBones customer service and support, and so I've been trying to avoid getting products from them for a little while. And so with this new 6K camera coming out, I'll be able to just get that EF compatibility directly in camera. The price on this camera is $24.95 versus the $12.95 on the 4K, so it is a little more money. In my mind, it's a little bit too high because for just the resolution and lens mount bump, but still still pretty affordable compared to some of the alternatives that are out there. So still kind of a bargain deal in terms of cinema style cameras. Now, in terms of using that camera in a live production workflow, it isn't really going to be recommended for few reasons. First of all, there's no SDI video output, so you can only do output video via the HDMI port, which you can certainly use in a live environment if you want to. But battery life is another huge problem. The battery life on these cameras is so short that you not want to use it in the live environment without having a separate external AC power, or at least a very, very large battery pack. These things burn through batteries like crazy. So not really an ideal camera for that sort of workflow. There also aren't a ton of lenses that have zoom control. They use either the MFT or the Canon EF mount. So if you wanted to do a nice smooth zoom, your lens choices are going to be very, very limited there. So, but I do actually intend to pick one of these up in the coming months. I don't know. I'm not in a huge hurry to do it. I don't have any projects that are on the schedule that would need that sort of a workflow, but I do intend to pick one up as a replacement for my Ursa Mini EF mount camera that I've had for almost 3 years now. I don't use it a lot, but there are definitely occasions when that's the right way to go. So one big downgrade is I'm going to have going from the Ursa Mini 4K that I have to the Blackmagic Cinema camera is my Ursa has a global shutter, whereas the Pocket Cinema camera has a rolling shutter. So I specifically purchased that Ursa Mini 4K for that global shutter capability. It's the only model in their lineup that has that capability. So let's see if we have any questions here. Let's see, we got a question. Are we okay to pop on a Sigma 18 to 35? I don't know off the top of my head if that's a full frame or crop sensor, but either way it should be fine actually. So yeah, so question here is 8K worth it right now, or maybe wait a few years and the prices go down? I wouldn't put any I wouldn't be investing in 8K at this point. There's no practical way to distribute it. Our current computers don't really edit it very well, and yeah, just distribution is a huge issue. You might get some advantage being able to crop in and to produce a 4K image that hasn't been softened at all from the crop, but I don't know that 8K is necessarily worth it today. Maybe wait a few years. The 8K premium price-wise is pretty high at this point. That will come down, and very, very, very few 8K displays that are out there. So I wouldn't do that. So Soundman saying he'd rather go with the JVC GY LS300. I'm not familiar with that one, so I can't really comment on that. So Creative World asking about the battery. The battery, they didn't say anything about it, so I assume it's going to be the same. Most of the body of the camera is identical to the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K that they've had for a while. So I assume the battery life is going to be more or less the same. Although with additional processing going to 6K, it could actually be maybe a little bit less. So I wouldn't use these cameras without a separate power source. The battery life is just not great on those things. Let's see. So Hassan asking if the Pocket 4K has the ability to shoot with EF mount lenses. Not directly. You need an adapter, and that's why I mentioned the Metabones adapter. In fact, Metabones just within the last few weeks has announced a EF mount adapter specifically for the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. They've had some that would sort of work in the past, but now they've got some that are made specifically for that purpose. And they're decent products, but my experience with Metabones support and sales has been pretty abysmal. They've been completely unresponsive. So if you have any troubles, you're probably on your own. Let's see. So Satinder saying it's a 35 sensor, Super 35 sensor on the 6K. That's about right. It's really, really close to APS-C size. It's within 2 millimeters width-wise and within 1 millimeter height-wise. So let's see, upstaging the Panasonic Lumix S1h in September. It's a model I'm not personally familiar with, so if you have some more information, there. So these cameras are great bargains. You get great great looking images in most cases, especially if you're working in a well lit environment and you're willing to put some time into doing some color. The images coming straight out of camera are a little flat and need a little bit of work before they're really presentable, but that's part of the normal workflow when you're working in a film-like workflow anyway. So not really a big deal, and with a little tweaking, the images on these cameras can be absolutely fantastic. They've been used on some big budget projects actually, so no, I don't think you'd be disappointed if what you're looking for is a film-like workflow. For those who work in my industry, where you're talking about live production, these cinema cameras just really aren't designed for that. And they can be made to work, but they're awkward, and you have some limitations that you have to deal with that are just not great. And in addition to battery life issues and lack of proper zoom lenses, powered zoom lenses, you also have to create LUTs in order to give it a nice live, punchy image that you tend to expect from that sort of live workflow. So, all right, so Soundman saying both Super 35 and JVC is actually usable as the battery lasts more than 10 minutes, and the JVC also has SDI. So yeah, a few differences there. So all right, and then comment about beta bones being terrible. Yes. I personally haven't used them myself, just because. Well, I have. There's been a few times I've rented some. I've never owned a Metabones product. I've talked to a number of people who've used them, and for the most part, they've been fairly satisfied with the products themselves. But their support is actually pretty bad. So if you ever have a problem, I would avoid Metabone. You have some real struggles with Metabones there. So let's see. They also announced a new piece of software, and I'm not going to pull that up here, but Blackmagic Raw benchmark, basically. So you're able to benchmark and see how fast your computer is able to process the Blackmagic Raw files. Anybody not familiar with Blackmagic Raw, it's a new format that they announced about a year and a half ago. Very, very, very efficient, where it takes some of the most computationally intensive stuff that makes traditional raw files difficult to work with on a computer and moves that processing back into the camera. So you're still getting raw images, but it's been tweaked and stored in a way that's just a little easier to handle in editing. So computers are able to edit Blackmagic Raw files of higher resolution and frame rates a little easier than they do with some of the other formats, other raw formats that are out there. Red Raw in particular is a little bit hard to edit. And some of the other formats that are similar are difficult to edit. So Blackmagic invented this new format. And so these Pocket Cinema cameras, they actually all support the Blackmagic Raw, as does the Ursa Mini Pro series as well. So what Blackmagic has done is they've created this new software that allows you to basically see how well your computer is able to process that Blackmagic Raw file. It'll basically give you a rating in frames per second of how fast your CPU and your GPU are able to process that. That software is available now for Mac. It is available for download. I did see that. It's coming later for Windows. It's not available quite yet. So let's see. Creative World asking if the 6K workflow will be harder on the system. Yeah, of course. Yeah, anytime you increase your resolution, frame rate, or bit depth, there's more data to be processed there. So it is going to be harder on your system. That said, with the efficiency of Blackmagic Raw the 6K shouldn't really be too much of a problem on most modern computers. The Blackmagic Raw format is fairly easy for most modern computers to be able to handle. So, but every time you increase resolution, so if you go 4K to 6K, you're not just going up 50% in the width, you're also going up 50% in the height, and so that's 2.25 times as much data as you have working in a 4K. So with that said, though, you can actually shoot in lower resolutions on the 6K camera if you want to. You don't have to shoot the full 6K if you don't actually need all that resolution. So let's see. Losing things, saying disappointed because I got the Pocket Cinema 4K recently and want to use a speed booster. And now the same camera with EF mount and Super 5 sensor is virtually the same price. Yeah, that's the danger of technology, you know. So anytime you buy a product, you're in danger of it becoming out of date or have it replaced very soon. So just the nature of the business these days. And You know, if you want to avoid that, you kind of have to only buy products right after the first announce. Then you run the risk of them not being fully debugged and fully tested. So, yeah, it's not going to be necessarily ever a great time to buy. So buy when you need something and not necessarily hold off. So. All right, so let's see if we have any other questions coming in here in the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. This is really meant to be just a quick summary of the Blackmagic announcements. You can go and watch the actual full video, although it is an hour and 40 minutes. So you're getting the gist of it here with this video. I've kind of hit all the high points. If you want all the intimate details, you can go and watch Grant Petty there on the Blackmagic video. It's available on YouTube right now, so you can go and watch the original. So, yeah, so that's kind of it. So if you guys are in the live video production business, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I try to release content about once a week, talking about doing live production and the equipment, do demonstrations and product reviews and instruction on how to do things. So lots of cool content coming up there. Also, if you are in live production, be sure and check out my website that I've created, crewaxis.com. That's crewaxis.com. It's basically a site that's there to help you run every aspect of your live production business. So it manages your events, manages your crew, manages your equipment, helps you to manage your finances. It does all that stuff, and I've got some plans there that are very affordable, all the way from free up to enterprise. So basically, there's something there for everyone. So anyway, you guys, if you have any other questions, be sure and leave those in the comments down below. I'll try and answer those as best I can. I do monitor the channel for comments pretty often, so I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Anyway, if you guys, again, have anything you want to share, be sure and do that in the comment section down below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and have a fantastic day.